A very good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. My name is Aishwarya and here are the headlines. Slight improvement in air quality in Delhi NCR. Delhi government again seeks exemption for women and two-wheelers in odd-even scheme before NGT. Haryana and Delhi chief ministers to discuss pollution issue today. Prime Minister returns after productive Philippines visit. At ASEAN, India meet urges ASEAN members to intensify cooperation in fighting terrorism. Wholesale inflation surges to 6-month high at 3.59% in October. Prices of food items and vegetables soar. Australia overwhelmingly votes in favour of legalising same-sex marriage in non-binding postal vote. Prime Minister Turnbull says will aim to pass law in Parliament by December. And Kenneth Justice sworn in as the US ambassador to India replaces Indian-American Richard Verma as top American diplomat to the country. Our top stories from Delhi NCR and the national capital's air quality improved marginally on Tuesday, but it continued to remain very poor, forcing the authorities to continue with bans on trucks and construction. The 24-hour average air quality index remained at 308, which falls in the very poor category, following a week-long smog episode when pollutants shot up to emergency levels. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal will meet his Haryana counterpart Manohar Lal Khattar in Chandigarh today to discuss the hazardous pollution levels in Delhi and North India. Kejriwal had written to both Haryana and Punjab Chief Ministers last week asking to set up a meeting to discuss the prevailing pollution levels. While the Punjab Chief Minister had refused a meeting so far, saying that the centre should take the lead, Khattar had agreed for a meeting 5 days after Kejriwal had made the request. And in related news, the Delhi government has again moved the National Green Tribunal seeking exemptions for its odd-even formula. The Arvind Kejriwal government sought exemption for women and two-wheelers either for a year or till 2,000 buses are added to the public transport fleet. In a fresh plea, the Delhi government also pleaded the NGT to ask the neighbouring states to implement the scheme. The modified petition was filed hours after the NGT termed the situation in Delhi an environment and health emergency.
The National Green Tribunal has once again refused to exempt two-wheelers and women drivers from the odd-even scheme. Further, the Green Court asked the Delhi government to run buses exclusively for women passengers.
एनजीटी ने कई प्रश्न जरूर पूछे या कई मुद्दे उठाए कि ऑड इवन की स्कीम लाने का क्या बेसिस क्या था, आधार क्या था, एनवायरनमेंट के लिए था तो उसमें एग्जेम्पशन क्यों की, क्या दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट ये कह रही है कि टू व्हीलर्स जो व्हीकल्स हैं वो पोल्यूशन कॉज नहीं करते.
The court also asked the state government to give at least one scientific reason as to why anyone should be exempt from the scheme. It also asked the government to choose a spot in the city and sprinkle water from a helicopter to find out whether it is effective in reducing air pollution.
जो आप लोअर लेवल पर स्प्रिंकलिंग कर रहे हैं उससे पेड़ों पे करने से कोई फायदा नहीं होगा. करना आपको मल्टी स्क्रेपर से या हेलीकॉप्टर से करना है. उसमें भी कई मुद्दे उठाए गए थे, पर आज की तारीख में कोर्ट ने कहा एटलीस्ट आप सैंपल बेसिस पे दो जो मोस्ट पोल्यूटेड है, चाहे वो जहांगीरपुरी है चाहे और एरियाज हैं, वहाँ पर आप इंश्योर कीजिए कि उसकी लेवल तुरंत नीचे आ जाए. और कोर्ट ने ये भी आश्वासन दिया कि जो उन्होंने डायरेक्शंस दिए हैं अगर अमल होने पर पोल्यूशन नीचे नहीं आती तो एनजीटी अपने ऑर्डर्स वापस ले लेगी.
The National Green Tribunal also questioned the Delhi government's decision of reopening schools, even as the city-state continues to suffer from severe to very poor air quality levels.
सांस लेने में दिक्कत आ रही है, आंखों में मिर्ची सी लग रही हैं और सफोकेशन महसूस हो रहा है. ऐसा मन करता है कि दिल्ली से कहीं दूर गांव में भाग जाएं.
And I find it simply horrible. In fact, I have started a cough, which I didn't have when I came here initially for 2 weeks back. For last 4, 5, 6 days, it has been simply horrible.
The former two editions of the odd-even scheme did not apply to women, two-wheelers vehicles carrying children in school uniforms and VVIPs. Panchanan Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
On to some other news now. Vice President M Venkaiah Naidu has said that achieving good health for all is an important goal of the government. He said that good health is a foundation for furthering social and economic development, but cautioned that in order to do better, several things need to happen. Now, these include higher priority for health in policy making and enhanced resources for preventive and public health measures.
May I request our guests...
Vice President M Venkaiah Naidu on Tuesday launched the India State-Level Disease Burden Report prepared by the Indian Council of Medical Research in the national capital. Underscoring the importance of securing good health for the entire Indian population, he pointed out that it is an important goal for the government.
When compared internationally, many health indicators in India continue to be poorer than some other countries at a similar level of development. This implies that while significant health improvements have been happening in India, we could do better and we should do better.
The Vice President also highlighted the importance of family planning in India and suggested giving incentives to those who follow it.
Family planning, we have to educate the people the need for family planning. You cannot, in a democracy, you cannot have any forced thing. But there has to be some incentives for following a family planning also. That should be part of the government policy. Of course, it requires wider debate. There has to be broad political consensus also.
The report by the India State-Level Disease Burden Initiative provides comprehensive estimates for each state from 1990 to 2016 for the first time in India. Along with the technical scientific paper and the open access visualization tool, it provides systematic insights into the health status of each state and health inequalities between the states. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
News from the Philippines now. After a series of productive bilateral and multilateral engagements at the Asean, India and East Asia Summit in Manila, Prime Minister Narendra Modi returned to India on Wednesday. Now, during his 3-day visit, the Prime Minister met world leaders including US President Donald Trump, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and Australian counterpart Malcolm Turnbull. Earlier on Tuesday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the 15th ASEAN-India Summit and urged the ASEAN members to intensify cooperation in fighting terrorism. The Prime Minister assured the ASEAN of India's support in maintaining regional security. The Prime Minister also invited the ASEAN leaders to be the chief guests at the 2018 Republic Day celebrations.
Prime Minister invited all the 10 leaders of the ASEAN member countries for a commemorative summit that will be held on 25th of January. And then he invited them to be chief guests for our Republic Day celebrations on 26th of January. In response, all the ASEAN leaders thanked our Prime Minister for this invitation and very graciously accepted this invitation, and so that was really the high point of our summit discussions today.
Well, at a time when China is refusing to cooperate with India on terrorism, Prime Minister Narendra Modi asked the ASEAN members to cooperate in its fight against terrorism. He also called on them to increase cooperation in regional security and increase the trade with India. The Prime Minister made this appeal at the India-ASEAN Summit and the East Asia Summit in Philippines capital Manila on Tuesday.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the 15th India-ASEAN Summit in Manila on Tuesday. Criticizing the hegemonistic attitude of China towards its neighbors in the Asia-Pacific region, Modi assured that he will continue support for a rule-based regional security structure. He also said countries need to collectively fight the menace of terrorism.
इस क्षेत्र के हितों और शांतिपूर्ण विकास को ध्यान में रखते हुए नियमों पर आधारित क्षेत्रीय सुरक्षा ढांचे की स्थापना के लिए भारत आसियान को अपना समर्थन जारी रखेगा। हमने अपने अपने देशों में आतंकवाद तथा उग्रवाद से कड़ा संघर्ष किया है। अब समय आ गया है जब हम इस महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर आपसी सहयोग बढ़ाकर इस चुनौती का मिलजुल कर सामना भी करें और समाधान निकालें।
The Prime Minister said, looking at the importance of ASEAN countries, India will celebrate the Silver Jubilee India-ASEAN engagement as a commemorative summit in Delhi next year on the 25th of January. All ASEAN leaders have been invited to take part in the 69th Republic Day celebration as chief guests.
भारत आसियान डायलॉग पार्टनरशिप के 25वीं वर्षगांठ समारोह का थीम शेयर्ड वैल्यूज कॉमन डेस्टिनी बिल्कुल उपयुक्त है। इस अवसर पर हमने बहुत से कार्यक्रम मिलजुल करके आयोजित किए हैं। मुझे विश्वास है कि इस यादगार वर्ष का समापन भी बहुत ही शानदार रहेगा। 25 जनवरी 2018 को नई दिल्ली में इंडिया आसियान स्पेशल कॉमेमोरेटिव समिट में आपका स्वागत करने के लिए भारत और मैं व्यक्तिगत रूप से बहुत ही उत्सुक हूं। भारत के 69वें गणतंत्र दिवस समारोह के हमारे मुख्य अतिथियों के रूप में आसियान देशों के नेताओं का स्वागत करने के लिए 125 करोड़ भारतवासी इंतजार कर रहे हैं।
Tuesday was a hectic day for the Prime Minister, during which he also addressed the East Asia Summit, in which documents were signed relating to money laundering and countering terror funding and against the use of chemical weapons. Modi also used the occasion to meet the Prime Ministers of Australia, Vietnam, Japan and New Zealand. His other meetings included a one-on-one with the Sultan of Brunei on the sidelines of the summit. ASEAN is a major bloc that holds influence in the Asia-Pacific region and is important for all major powers in the world. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And in Manila, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a brief interaction with the Chinese Premier Li Keqiang on the sidelines of the East Asia Summit. MEA spokesperson Ravish Kumar tweeted a photograph of the two leaders engaging in a conversation. The meeting comes amid strained ties between the two neighbors over a series of contentious issues like the One Belt, One Road initiative with Pakistan and Beijing's strident opposition to move to declare Pathankot terror attack mastermind Masood Azhar as a global terrorist by the United Nations. However, details of what transpired during the meeting is not yet known. Let's get you some other news now. The GST rate cut on 178 items will be applicable from today. After the GST Council meet in Guwahati, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley announced the cuts in tax slab for items ranging from chewing gum to chocolates. The GST Council pruned tax rates of 178 items from the highest tax slab in its 23rd meet on 10th of November. Rates of 13 items will be lowered from 18% to 12%, on 6 items from 18% to 5%, 8 items from 12% to 5% and 6 items from 5% to zero tax slab. The tax rates on restaurant, irrespective of AC or non-AC, has also been slashed to 5% from the earlier 18%. And the wholesale inflation surged to a 6-month high of 3.59% in the month of October on the back of rising food prices. The figure was 2.6% in the month of September. It was only 1.27% in October last year. Now, the rise in inflation comes on the back of a rise in food prices, which more than doubled to 4.3% in the month of October. For vegetables, the figure was 36.61% in October against 15.48% in September. Inflation in manufactured products also, however, dipped slightly to 2.62% as against 2.72% in the month of September. In fuel and power segment, inflation rose to 10.52% as against 9.01% in September. And Japan will simplify its visa rules from 1st of January next year for Indians applying for multiple entry visa for short-term stay. Now, this move is expected to benefit tourists and business persons as well as several visitors. The relaxed visa regime will not only have a simplification of visa application documents, but also expansion of scope of eligible applicants. Under the simplification of rules, the applicant's employment certificate and explanation letter stating the reason will be exempted in cases of multiple entry visas. Multiple entry visas with a validity of 5 years maximum and a stay of 90 days will be issued to applicants who have travel records to Japan twice or more in the last 1 year. And in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more news.
Hello and welcome. I'm Amritan Rai and you're watching Law of the Land.
A lot of Australians are working even in Indian sports nowadays. So in the different teams are also having a lot of Australian support staff.
The sports is not something which you perform in the spur of the moment.
We are going to start the National Sports University from this year itself.
The government of India should consider inviting foreigners or people who are excellent in sports.
Watch Law of the Land, Rajya Sabha television.
Thanks for staying with us. Now on Tuesday, President Ramnath Kovind inaugurated the 37th India International Trade Fair at Pragati Maidan in New Delhi. The 14-day trade fair will be open for general public from 18th of November. Here's a detailed report.
President Ramnath Kovind on Tuesday inaugurated the 37th edition of the India International Trade Fair 2017 in New Delhi. Speaking at the inauguration, the President said that the trade fair is taking place at a time when India is recognized as one of the bright spots of the global economy.
This year's IITF takes place at a point when India is recognized as one of the bright spots of the global economy. The world has acknowledged the changed business environment in India and the strides made in ease of doing business.
This time at the trade fair, many states have been given place in the same pavilion. While people complained about lack of space, there is no dearth in their enthusiasm.
मेला तो काफ़ी अच्छा चल रहा है, पर यह है कि सब चीज़ें छोटी हो गई, स्केल डाउन हो गया. पहले बड़े-बड़े पवेलियंस देखते थे आप, पर अब वो एक ही हैंगर में 5-5, 6-6 स्टेट्स डाले हुए हैं. तो सब चीज़ें श्रिंक हो गई है बेसिकली.
बिजनेसमैन उतने ही एक्साइटेड है, उतना ही ठीक है, स्पेस थोड़ा कम है, बट देन स्टिल सब अच्छा ही है comparatively.
As many as 3,000 exhibitors, including 222 foreign companies, domestic firms, public sector units and states are participating in the fair. 32 states and union territories are represented in the fair.
पिछले साल जो 1 लाख पब्लिक आती थी, जिससे व्यापार बढ़ता था, अब इस बार उन्होंने मतलब ITPO में पब्लिक की जो लिमिट है वो कम कर दी है. हो सकता है कुछ फर्क पड़ेगा व्यापार पे.
Last year, there was a daily footfall of around 1 lakh in the fair. But this year, due to the lack of space, that number is likely to come down. The 14-day trade fair is on till November 27th, with the first 4 days reserved for business visitors. The fair will open for general public on November 18th.
About 3,000 countries across the globe are participating in the International Trade Fair. Though the fair is being held almost half of the area, despite of it, entrepreneurs seem excited to exhibit their products. With camera person Suresh, Mohammad Fateh Tipu, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to some other news now. 3 independent candidates have filed nominations for the upcoming first phase of Gujarat Assembly elections. Now, this comes after the Election Commission issued notification for the first phase on Tuesday. The 3 nominations have been filed for Bhuj, Telaja and Bhavnagar West seats. The last date for filing of nominations is the 21st of this month, while scrutiny of nominations will be held the next day. The last day for the withdrawal of nominations is the 24th. 89 out of the 182 assembly constituencies will go to polls in the first phase on 9th of December. The Supreme Court dismissed a petition seeking an SIT probe into a bribery charge against judges. The apex court said that senior lawyers were making irresponsible allegations without verifying facts. Now, rejecting the petition filed by lawyer Jaiswal, it said that such a petition had raised unnecessary doubts over the integrity of judges. The top court, however, clarified that no one, not even judges, are above law. The case refers to the CBI's 19th of September FIR that named several people, including a former Orissa High Court judge, as the accused in an alleged corruption case. The FIR alleges that the accused had assured some medical colleges favorable orders from the top court. The Supreme Court made it clear that the CBI's FIR was not against any judge, and neither was it possible to lodge such a complaint against them.
Such an important and sensitive matter, where an investigation which is certainly going to touch upon the manner and whether the judges of the apex court were involved or were part of the conspiracy to be bribed. When we go to the court in order to protect the independence and the reputation of the court, that this investigation cannot be left in the hands of a government-controlled agency, why is it that an attempt should be made both to prevent the hearing of this case by the senior-most 5 judges of the Supreme Court, and why is it that this investigation is to be left to the CBI, to a government-controlled agency?
News from Jammu and Kashmir now. An army jawan and a militant were killed in an encounter in Kulgam district of Jammu and Kashmir, even as security forces were engaged in a counter-insurgency operation in Pulwama district. A soldier was critically injured in the gun battle with the militants at Nobugakund in Kulgam district. According to the army, the injured soldier later succumbed to his injuries. A militant was also killed in the operation. A cordon and search operation was launched by the security forces in Nobugakund village early on Tuesday morning after receiving specific information about the presence of militants in the area. As the forces were conducting the searches, the militants fired upon them, triggering an encounter. On to the other top story of the day. Kenneth Jester was sworn in as the U.S. ambassador to India on Tuesday. Vice President of U.S. Mike Pence congratulated the new U.S. envoy. He voiced confidence that Jester will build an even stronger partnership that will benefit both the countries and their people. 62-year-old Ken Jester replaces Indian-American Richard Verma as the top American diplomat to India. The position had been lying vacant since 20th of January after Verma resigned from the post after the swearing-in of Donald Trump as the U.S. president. Jester is expected to be headed for India soon to prepare for the visit of Ivanka Trump to Hyderabad later this month. Let's get to the top international story now. Australia has said yes to legalizing same-sex marriage after a controversial 2-month national postal survey. Results released on Wednesday revealed 61% of the population voted to allow same-sex marriage. More than 12.7 million people across the country, or close to 80% of the population, took part in the survey. Voting opened on 12th of September and Australians who had registered to vote had until 7th of November to return their survey. Now, celebrations, singing and tears greeted the announcement in Melbourne, where hundreds of people had gathered to hear the result. Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull said that his government will aim to now bring in a law in Parliament by December. However, opposition Labour Party leader Bill Shorten has said that the postal vote itself should have never happened. Politicians are expected to begin discussing the specifics of the bill as early as this week. And U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is in Myanmar, where he will meet with the head of Myanmar's military today. He is likely to press Myanmar Army Chief to halt violence in Rakhine State so that Rohingyas can return. Earlier, the plight of Rohingyas was also discussed at the ASEAN Summit plenary in Manila, with Tillerson meeting with the Myanmar's State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi on Tuesday. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, also met with Suu Kyi on the sidelines to discuss the situation in Rakhine State. More than 6 lakh Rohingya Muslims are seeking shelter in neighbouring Bangladesh amid an outbreak of violence since late August. However, a draft of the statement to be issued after the meeting of the Southeast Asian leaders made no mention of the plight of Rohingyas in Rakhine State that the United Nations has described as ethnic cleansing, disappointing human rights groups who are hoping for a tough stand. Let's get to some more international news now. Here is the World Wrap. Soldiers are reported to have taken over the headquarters of Zimbabwe's national broadcaster ZBC amid a growing political crisis in the country. Explosions have also been reported in the capital, Harare. This comes as Zimbabwe's ruling party accused the country's army chief of treasonable conduct after he warned of a possible military intervention. The army chief has challenged President Robert Mugabe after he sacked the vice president. However, Zimbabwe's ambassador in South Africa has denied talk of a coup. Four people are dead after a gunman opened fire in Northern California at several locations, including an elementary school. Police say the shootings started as a domestic violence incident at a home in Tehama County. He later moved to the exterior Rancho Tehama Elementary School, with the gunman appearing to be randomly picking targets. Police say that the gunman was shot and killed by law enforcement agencies after 4 others were killed in the rampage. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani on Tuesday visited the region hit by a 7.3 magnitude earthquake at the weekend and said that the government would do all it can to help those who are suffering. He also vowed to find the culprits responsible for buildings collapsing in the earthquake. Rescue operations have ended in areas of Iran hit by a quake that killed at least 530 people and injured thousands, as many survivors in need of food and water battled the cold. At least 14 provinces in Iran were affected. And Nepal has cancelled a major deal with a state-owned Chinese company to develop a 1200 megawatt hydroelectric power plant. The agreement for the $2.5 billion Budhi Gandaki hydroelectric project, which could have nearly doubled Nepal's current hydropower production, was signed in the month of June. However, a cabinet meeting held yesterday revoked the deal, with the energy minister of the country saying that the agreement was signed illegally and haphazardly. Time for all the sporting action now, and India on Tuesday played out a 2-all draw against Myanmar in the return leg match of the AFC Asian Cup qualifying Group A match. For India, Sunil Chhetri and JJ Lal Pheluka scored a goal for India, while for Myanmar, Yan Yagu and K Koko scored. Now, India had beaten Myanmar 1-0 in the first leg in March this year. With this draw, India are now on the top of the group with 13 points from 5 matches. Myanmar are placed second with 5 points from 4 matches. And ace Indian badminton players Ashwini Ponappa and Satvik Sairaj Sankireddy have qualified for the main draw of the mixed doubles at the China Open World Super Series premiere. The Indian pair beat Nicholas Noor and Sara Theksen of Denmark 21-16, 19-21, 22-20. Now the Indian pair will take on Mathis Christiansen and Christiana Pedersen. That's it from me and my team in this edition of News. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day ahead.